We heard about NVIDIA actually a fair amount in this last panel, so it's only fitting that our final panel will be with Manish Harsh, who's the Global Head of Developer Relations at NVIDIA. And we'll also be having David Purón from Barbara back on with us. So whenever the two of you get a chance to jump in the circle, all right, we got you, David. Very good. Nice to have you back. And let's see if Manish can get on here and we can get the conversation started. Let's see where we got him. Perfect. Hi, Manish. Very nice to have you with us.
Hey, same here. Same here.
Good.
Can you hear me?
So, Manish, yeah, we can hear you perfectly. Manish, since we heard from David earlier, a quick introduction to his background, can we get a quick introduction from you? 30 seconds about yourself and what you're working on in NVIDIA.
Can you hear me now? Just to
you're great. Yeah. Yep.
Hey, thank you very much. Yes, I've been with NVIDIA for a long time. It's been 10 years and been doing the tech evangelism, with a vertical focus. I work with autonomous driving, telcos, and now I'm part of the data center group where we are focused to monetizing our NVIDIA software, which we call NVIDIA AI operating system. So we'll talk more in the session now.
Very, very good. Both of you have a background in security. David talked a little bit about his background previously, but Manish, what gives you the feeling that there's a strong need of scale and faster AI-based solutions, especially when it comes to security?
Yeah, see, we see this AI from a different lens, and which is way more wider and deeper. I mean, this is how we want to think. So, to more than 1 trillion connected things, smart devices, around 221 zettabyte of data generated by 2026, 5 billion plus internet users. We all agree that there's explosion of data happening in this. And it's not that because of OpenAI launched something and we are talking about AI, or we are here for a serious reason, because this opens up security challenges for us. Hence, AI can actually jump in and solve these problems for security. And the cyber attacks and these challenges are pretty serious. We did some numbers around $4.35 million per average breach is being lost. It takes around 277 days roughly on an average to identify and contain a breach. So these things are pretty serious, and how AI can help in guard this whole growth of AI. So we identified a couple of areas like automated threat detection, continuous monitoring, extend the capabilities of human analysts. We started working towards them, and we look at it as a full stack problem. And we will talk more about it, but the idea is that how can we enable the industry from bottoms up and top down, both sides.
Very good. Wonderful. And it's a great way to get context. David, as someone with a significant background with security, one of the aspects is autonomy. Can you give us an example of a project or a use case where that played a significant role?
Yeah, and when I was speaking in the previous panel, I said that the motivations for a company, or mostly an industrial company, to move ML and computation to the edge were like four. We have latency, we have data volumes, we have autonomy, and we have security. And I will say that autonomy and security, which are very linked, because a cyber attack can basically break the autonomy of a system, are probably the most common one in all our customers. So when you ask our customers why you're moving data to the edge instead of doing it in a centralized place, all of them always talk about security and privacy. So Manish was putting some numbers, and this is real. So industrial customers now, they are opening their data, their industrial networks. They are really concerned about cybersecurity. And one example, for example, is we work with Acciona, who is an water infrastructure manager operating globally. They operate water treatment plants, and they are deploying models to predict the number of chemicals that they are going to need the next day. They are getting a a huge amount of savings by doing that, because in the past they were doing this manually and they were spending much more money than they will really need. Now they have an algorithm that is saying exactly how much chemical for specific chemicals they need to use. The problem of putting this into production, into real water treatment plants, is that they need to open APIs, they need to move data from here to there, or open ports, do these kind of things. This is highly critical infrastructure, because if a water plant is hacked, there was actually a water treatment plant hack in the US a few years ago, and they could, contaminate the whole city, right? So they are regulated in terms of cybersecurity, and they are also afraid. So they are very, very concerned about how to address cybersecurity when they are deploying this type of models in critical infrastructure. So both from the angle of protecting data, or as Manish was saying, or using cybersecurity to improve, using AI to improve the cybersecurity level. I think cybersecurity is all around the discussions that we're having with customers.
Very good. With that in mind, with internal customers at NVIDIA, and Manish, you mentioned you've been there for 10 years, so you've seen how the organization has evolved, how cybersecurity is viewed. How does NVIDIA approach this particular aspect, this topic, and what guidance are you providing to solution architects that are out there getting questions about this particular area in order so that they're able to respond? As David said, we're talking about serious threats that can have serious consequences in an environmental sense, in a human sense. You mentioned previously earlier, Manish, the cost in terms of dollars as well as in time. But how is your organization approaching this, and what are the common tips you find yourself giving to folks out there that you're working with?
I'll share what I've learned, and this is the theme inside the company. We understand the workload. What's the workload? What's the industry? And what's the most important use case for that industry? And cybersecurity, that's going down to this lane of cybersecurity. It's a data problem. So that's how we want to simplify it. Fundamentally, it's a data problem, and the current cybersecurity methods cannot scale. The way the industry has been doing it traditionally, it's not the way they can scale with the tsunami of data we are seeing here. So what we started doing is we started building AI workflows for each of these important areas. For a while, let me diverge from cybersecurity to recommender engines we talk about Nemo, which is our speech AI, and we go into each and every area, whether it's telecoms, autonomous driving, healthcare, we have drug discovery. So we started building workflows to solve these use cases, and we started optimizing the containers and the software required to address these use cases. In case of cybersecurity, we developed a software called Morpheus, which is a GPU accelerated SDK, which enables the developers to quickly optimize AI pipelines or filtering, processing, classifying large volumes of data. And that's I'll share the links for the community to go and start playing around it. It is open source, free to use. There's an underlying software, which is our NVIDIA AI enterprise software, there's a $sign on it once you start using things in production. But everything else is free. The advice is start thinking full stack. Don't think only software, only hardware. And thanks to Ed Shee and Andrea, they threw so much light on NVIDIA's and challenges, which is great to hear. I mean, an industry has started finally understanding the importance of it. Now it's time to see it as a full stack and think through the whole software. And we have enabled the underlying software for developers to go and start building apps on it. We will share that info in the session. So
okay, good. With that in mind, when this has come up, it's been really nice to see how the different panels have played off each other. And it was in the initial conversation that we talked a fair amount about compliance, about stakeholders, about data governance, and the aspect of regulation, right? So David, is there anything, because with Manish, we're talking about scalability. Is there anything, in terms of regulation that's helping cybersecurity move forward in a way that's practical, in a way that is smooth sailing for end users? Is there anything that you've seen that looks promising in this aspect?
Well, there are. I think we need to differentiate between privacy and security, right? In the first panel, I think we were talking more about privacy, and I think the GDPR that you already mentioned in the intro, Bart, is a really good movement that Europe did in terms of being able to protect data, because AI is all about data. It's about getting a lot of data to train models, and we as citizens need to ensure that our privacy and our specifics as humans are protected by regulation. And I think GDPR is already very well covered, at least in the European territory, to protect this data. When it comes to cybersecurity, there is the Cybersecurity Act and the NIST framework and the NIST framework there in the US, which is equivalent. So all these are good frameworks, but are not yet mandatory as GDPR in terms of fulfillment, right? So many companies are just taking this Cybersecurity Act as something that will come in the future, but is not yet there. And cybersecurity requires investment. So not all the companies are at the same level. There are some. When it comes to industry, there are some specific standards and regulation. We really love one called IEC 62443, which is something that is relatively quote unquote simple to fulfill, because it's very specific. It has 4 cybersecurity levels, being 0 the less being for the most restrictive and 0 the less restrictive or the less secure, if you want to see it that way. But IEC 62443 is a very well defined and modern standard for IT and OT intersection. So I would recommend every software developer, device developer, or end customer to take a look on that. And even Cybersecurity Act is and the regulation is not yet there. If you want to get your deployments and projects to a reasonable security standard, you can take a look on this type of regulations, and we're happy to share our thoughts on that with anybody who is interested.
Very good. Good to be open, and like you said, there are different things that are going on and that's exactly why we're having these conversations, right? Is to get these things out in the open, particularly people, different countries, different use cases, different industries, different regulatory ways of looking at things. One of the things, going back to you though, Manish, one of the things you talked about that you mentioned was, full stack. We're including, hardware and software. One of the big, things that NVIDIA is putting out there is that solutions need to be end to end, right? So when it comes to cybersecurity, is NVIDIA using that same approach, or how is that approach being applied to that particular element of cybersecurity with this mentality of end to end?
Yeah. This has been a theme for very long, and I think thanks to our CEO who thought through this whole vision of addressing the workloads and use cases from end-to-end perspective. Otherwise, we are not really helping the industry. So we started stitching based the workflows because just to oversimplify, in every industry there's an edge and then there is a data center. So in case of telecoms, baseband radio station is an edge, and compute is happening in the data centers. And automotive, the car, the data center, healthcare device, and I can keep going on. So we have a chip at the edge, we have a chip in the data center, and we want to build an end-to-end because we feel the responsibility. The applications built on our platform should be deployed and managed and monitored more seamlessly. So developers focus on their application and use case rather than the underlying, hardware swapping happening in the future. Next generation GPUs coming in should not be bothering them with their application. Hence, end to end, the way we look at it. So we look at end to end from edge and the data center perspective. So that's the end. Now coming to Morpheus, which is our cybersecurity solution, is similarly end to end in nature. From how we see it, it's really not end to end from application perspective, but it is end to end give a platform to build an application, depending what you are trying to achieve. So let me to wrap it up. It's a data agnostic. Morpheus is data agnostic and can send and receive telemetry data from multiple sources, including any NVIDIA Bluefield DPU accelerated server and NVIDIA Docker-based applications in the data center without impacting any performance. So that's the idea. And that should be, a developer should be, completely satisfied and not worried about the underlying infra once they are on our platform. That's the philosophy behind end-to-end.
Got it. Very good. And like you said, that agnostic part of it, I think is liberating. We were talking previously about different open source projects. Someone referenced also one of the NVIDIA open source projects related to inference. I believe it's called Triton. It's like I said, it's nice to see that these things are going out there, because it means that the people who have attended today that are interested in taking this further can go immediately take a look at the code base, can start asking questions, take a look at a good first issue, get a pull request going. I think that's, like I said, for me, it's really, really nice to see that. When, now that we're getting toward the end of this conversation and thinking about end-to-end, there have been a lot of things covered, right? We've talked about hardware, software, IT, and OT. We've talked about interoperability. We've talked about the regulatory aspects. We've talked about different use cases. David, from Barbara's perspective as an organization that's been around for 7 years, in terms of the growth that you've experienced, the things that you're looking at, what are the next steps that you think, or that you're telling the organizations that you're working with that they have to be thinking about? What are the next things that we can be expecting, the next conversations we should be having? What do we need to be thinking about and talking about as we move forward?
I think for me, probably the most important word is community and ecosystem, and this is why we're doing this type of events. I think the complex that some of the companies are trying to the problems that they are trying to address are they require a lot of expertise on many things, on hardware, software, MLOps, DevOps, containers, cybersecurity. So everything is so complex and so diverse that we as companies cannot work in trying to fix absolutely everything, right? So what I'm telling both internally to my fellow partners in Barbara, but also to my customers is, let's build an ecosystem. Let's try to bring different tools, interact together, bring everybody to the same room and try to address problems in the same direction, right? And events like this, I think, really help. Also, the NVIDIA Inception program that we joined recently, to be able to use these tools and get support from them. So they try to build this ecosystem and community, because the Edge AI is just starting, and with all together, I think we will build really good use cases if we go hand on hand.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's been one of the magical things about bringing people together from different countries with different backgrounds and experiences, yet we see so many agreements across the board. I think that's been a really, really cool thing to see, is that people that are meeting each other for the first time and are really, really connecting, that only shows the next steps that are going to be taken. Manish, what do you think? What are the things that we definitely need to be keeping in mind? What are the things that you're interested in knowing about more as we move forward?
The community and the ecosystem part is really, really critical. The next phase of how the business will happen is all together. We all fail together, we all win together kind of philosophy. The coral reef theory applies everywhere. We all survive, small, big, large. So one thing, David, completely 100% in agreement with you. The way we see ourselves, everyone has a different lens. We see that we are in a business or responsibility of helping people who are developing, designing, deploying, monitoring models. Anyone who is into business of models, we should try to solve their problem. Our partners, Helden, HP, Modzy, they all are here. They're all trying to do the same thing, in some of the other from their lens. So I think we need to continue collaborating, and I'm really looking forward to work together with you, David, and Barbara team. Let's see what we can do.
Very good. Well, it's a very positive note to end on. That being said, as with our previous panels, I would like to share my screen momentarily. But while we're doing that, let's get a round of applause going. We had some other links that were being shared. If there was anything else we didn't get a chance to cover, please let us know so that we can get that out in the open. Let me just make sure that we have this. We should be good. Sorry. Very good. Sorry, I'm just gonna have to share my entire screen. I apologize. And very good. Should be able to see this. Our last artistic depiction from the graphic recorder who was drawing while the conversation was ongoing. I think he did a fantastic job, so we can also give him a round of applause. That being said, I think it was wonderful the way that this ended with the aspect of community, the different stakeholders, the different folks in the room, the different, like I said, experiences that are going to make these conversations that much easier for us to be having in the future. So as I said at the beginning, you can be sure to see more from Barbara coming out on LinkedIn, on Twitter. These videos will be shared very soon and uploaded to YouTube. So if you arrived a little bit late, not a problem, they'll be there. Just want to thank everybody for joining us today. There will also be a follow-up survey coming out to see what can be improved in these sessions. If there's something, suggestions, if you would like to be involved in the conversation, please let us know. We're very open and like to hear more from you. That being said, Manish and David, thank you very much for joining us in the last panel. And thanks to everyone else who participated. It's been wonderful.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Cheers. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.